Hey, this is Colin Gibson, and I'm going to come at you with some more golf equipment talk today. Today we're going to be talking about, what you need to do to assemble your own clubs and, turn them into a set that's going to perform consistently for you. So I don't know if you can see that, but it is a snowy day in Denver today, so a perfect day to assemble some clubs. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the camera around and just kind of show you the clubs that I'm putting together and talk about everything that I've done to prepare the clubs and the shafts and the ferrules and, specifically concerning weights and MOI and length of the clubs before I epoxy them together. Okay, and there's a few steps that I think a lot of club makers just kind of skip that are really important to do if you want your clubs to perform to the best of their ability and to give you the most consistency. Okay, and the two biggest things that I think the club makers are kind of missing usually before they assemble their clubs are shaft alignment. It's very important to align your shafts to the weak plane at the target. And if you guys have any questions about shaft alignment, go back and watch a previous video that I did on shaft alignment that basically came in, I came off a little bit, maybe a little bit hot, a little bit spicy about shaft alignment because it's so important. And if you don't align your shafts with the weak plane at the target, then you're going to have inconsistent shots. And so we're definitely did the spining and the shaft alignment in these shafts. The other thing you need to do is before you put your clubs together, you need to have everything mapped and gapped, meaning you need to know exactly what length you want your clubs, and you need to have all of your lofts and lies bent beforehand so that when you assemble them, you don't have a lot of tweaking and things to do afterwards. Okay. And the clubs that I'm going to put together today are some really nicely hand forged, hand ground Itobori irons. Okay. So, these are $2,500 irons, and I'm going to put some True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Issue X100 shafts in them. So the weights of those are also very finely tuned. So let's go back to those irons. Those Itobori irons, they have a perfect weight progression up and down the set. Okay, and I'm putting together a 5 all the way down through a Lob Wedge. Okay, and they're really nicely spaced as far as how much the club heads weigh. Okay, and then I got a bunch of the Dynamic Gold Tour Issue iron shafts, and I also weighed those. I actually did get rid of one of the shafts because it was off of the weight a little bit. And then I cut those to length, and, I soft stepped them maybe just a little bit, for my taste. But even after I did that, and then the next step is to do your MOI matching. Okay, you want all your clubs to have the exact same MOI number. Okay, so my MOI number that I like is 2,900. It's a fairly neutral type of an MOI effort. Okay, to give your clubs, it's maybe a little bit heavier than some people are used to, but I like to feel, the head of the club. So even with really expensive, finely hand-forged, hand-ground club heads, even with tour issue, Dynamic Gold shafts, there was still 12 grams of difference, okay, between some of the weights or the MOIs of the clubs that I'm going to assemble. And I'll show you that here in a second. Okay, so here we have all of the Itobori irons lined up with their ferrules, ready to go in these shafts. These shafts have been cut and weighed and they've been spined with the weak plane of the shaft at the target. And so we're ready to assemble these. But the thing that I want to show you guys is that even with a super nicely hand ground club head like this, that's perfectly weighted, the amount of extra weight that I'm going to need to add into the hosel of the shaft to make these all MOI match is up to 12 grams. Okay, so that is a huge amount of weight difference between some of these clubs in order to make them swing correctly. Now, if you guys haven't seen these Itobori irons, they're pretty cool. And I was a little skeptical about them at first, just because you can't find a lot of reviews about them, but they're supposed to be Japanese forged, and then you can see all the little grind marks on them. They're also hand ground, so that, you know, basically, you guys probably know if you heat up a club a lot and then allow it to cool, and then you heat it up and cool it again, it starts to get more brittle. It loses some of that kind of buttery quality that the hand forged clubs have. And so they put in the bounce and everything by hand. So they grind it and let it cool, grind it, let it cool. So it never heats up and it never gets brittle. And then when I put these into my Meticulously loft machine to get them bent up, they are really soft. And so I used to have some different shafts in these, and I hit them, and they are buttery soft. So I can't wait to get these things built and play with them. So let's talk a little bit more about the MOI matching. You really need to have all the clubs in your bag MOI matched, because you're going to, when you play golf, there's time in between shots. So the biggest difference between when you're on the range just hitting the same club and the same club and the same club is that club is MOI matched to itself. It has the same amount of effort to swing it. So when you swing it a bunch of times in a row, you can start to hit it straight, okay? And that may take a little bit. But then when you're playing golf, when you go to the course, you're never hitting the same club twice in a row, and there's a lot of time in between your shots, you know, so you might hit your driver, and then if you're in a foursome, you might have to wait 5 full minutes before you hit your second shot. So if your driver is a lot heavier or lighter than the next club you're hitting, let's say a 7-iron, then you're not going to be able to have the same nice tempo that you did with your driver and your 7-iron, okay? You're gonna have to give a completely different amount of effort to swing your driver and then to swing your 7-iron, and then let's say you have to swing a wedge. If all those have different MOI numbers, then you're not going to play consistent golf, okay? The heavier ones you're gonna push, the lighter ones you're gonna pull, and you're just gonna kind of wonder why you're not hitting the ball very consistently. And that's the other thing is, yes, you're not going to hit non-MOI match clubs very straight, but you're also not going to have a consistent strike pattern. And that's the biggest thing in golf. You guys all have to remember, good golfers are good ball strikers, okay? And you can't be a good ball striker if all of your clubs have a different swing weight or a different MOI number, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, once I get these Itoboris put together and the weather gets a little bit better in Denver, I'll take them out to the TrackMan hitting bay and hit them for you guys. Have a good one.